There is a city in Texas that the state of Texas calls the capital of Tex-Mex. Not Austin, not Dallas, not Houston, San Antonio. Founded in 1718 by Spanish missionaries, the seventh largest city in the United States. Home of the Alamo, the Riverwalk, and a food culture that predates the word Tex-Mex by at least a century. This is the city where Mexican women set up cooking fires in the plaza at dusk and fed everyone from vaqueros to senators. Where a family figured out what happens when you drop raw corn dough into hot oil. Where chili became America's most argued about stew. Where Tex-Mex was not invented in a boardroom but built dish by dish, generation by generation, in the kitchens of people who needed to eat. In the 1860s, possibly earlier, a group of Mexican and Tejana women begin setting up cooking fires in Military Plaza in downtown San Antonio after dark. They drag wooden tables and benches from their homes. They carry cast iron pots of chili they have cooked that afternoon. They light oil lanterns. They sell bowls of chili con carne, beef, dried chilies, cumin, garlic, no beans, for a few cents a bowl until dawn. They are called the Chili Queens. The Chili Queens are among the most important figures in American culinary history, and almost none of them are remembered by name. They fed vaqueros, soldiers, politicians, travelers, and adventurous eaters who had never tasted anything like it. Stephen Crane, author of The Red Badge of Courage, visited San Antonio in 1895 and wrote that the chili tasted like pounded fire brick from Hades. He meant it as a compliment. In 1893, the San Antonio chili stand was presented at the Chicago World's Fair, giving millions of Americans their first taste of chili. The dish went national. It never came back. Willy Gebhardt, a German immigrant from New Braunfels just outside San Antonio, invented commercial chili powder in 1896 and canned chili in 1908. This is the dish that belongs to San Antonio and nowhere else. A puffy taco is made from raw mesa, fresh corn dough, shaped into a flat disc and dropped into hot oil. As it fries, steam trapped inside the dough inflates it into a hollow golden shell that is simultaneously crispy on the outside and soft and chewy within. You fill it immediately. It must be eaten hot, fresh, within minutes of frying. With ground beef, shredded chicken, or bean and cheese. Then, top it with lettuce, tomato, shredded cheese, and salsa. The origin traces to the Lopez family. Maria Rodriguez Lopez was making a version of fried masa dough in the 1930s. Her grandson Ray Lopez opened Ray's Drive-In in 1956 at the corner of Southwest 19th Street and Guadalupe on San Antonio's west side. A community gathering place that served burgers, fried chicken, and what the family called crispy tacos. Ray's younger brother Henry later opened Henry's Puffy Tacos, gave the dish its current name, and sold it to California before bringing it back to San Antonio. Today, Henry's Puffy Tacos serves over 1,000 Puffy Tacos a day and has sold more than 15 million total. Ray's Drive-In still operates at the original location, still making the Puffy Taco the same way, still serving over 500 a day. Both restaurants claim the original. The Lopez family, wisely, considers this a good-natured internal debate. San Antonio did not invent every Tex-Mex dish. San Antonio invented Tex-Mex as a category. The cuisine that the world calls Tex-Mex. Yellow cheddar cheese, chili gravy, combination plates, hard-shell tacos, chili con queso, sizzling fajitas, chips and salsa before every meal. Developed specifically in the kitchens and restaurants of San Antonio, beginning in the late 1800s. When the Chili Queens moved indoors to actual restaurants in the early 1900s, they brought their flavor profiles with them and formalized them into menus. The combination plate, one enchilada, one taco, rice, beans, was born here. The chili gravy that soaks into Tex-Mex enchiladas, a dark ancho-based sauce with beef stock, not a Mexican red chili sauce, has no equivalent anywhere in Mexico. It was invented in San Antonio kitchens. The first documented chile con queso in Texas appeared at San Antonio's Gunter Hotel and the original Mexican restaurant around 1910. Made with processed American cheese and green chilies, not anything you'd find south of the border. Mi Tierra Café y Panaderia, which opened on Market Square in 1941, has been open 24 hours a day, 365 days a year since the day it opened. It is decorated with papel picado, piñatas, and Day of the Dead altars. San Antonio and Austin have been fighting about breakfast tacos for decades. Austin claims them. San Antonio is the birthplace. This is not actually in dispute among food historians. A San Antonio breakfast taco is a flour tortilla, handmade, preferably thick with baking powder and lard, wrapped around any combination of scrambled eggs with carne guisada, barbacoa, chorizo, bacon, potato, bean, and cheese, or all of the above. It is not fancy. It is hot, filled with protein, made by someone who has been making them since before you woke up, and costs under $3 at any of the hundreds of taquerias that open before dawn across the city. The specific flour tortilla matters. The San Antonio flour tortilla is thick, soft, slightly charred from the comal, with an interior that tears into layers. It is not the thin, factory-made flour tortilla sold in grocery stores. It is made fresh every morning, every day, at places like Taco Tote, at family-run taquerias on the south side and west side, where the line is out the door by 7 a.m. because the workers need to eat before the job site opens at 8. In 2016, a food writer for the New York Times Magazine set off what became known as the Breakfast Taco Wars by writing that Austin, not San Antonio, was the true home of the breakfast taco. This one is simple. Before 1896, if you wanted to make chili, you needed to buy whole dried chilies, toast them, grind them, and blend your own spice mix. Every time. Every pot. Willy Gebhardt was a German immigrant running a cafe in New Braunfels, now a suburb of San Antonio, in the 1890s. He was making chili for his customers and became obsessed with making the process faster. He bought a small hand-turned meat grinder and began grinding dried ancho chilies, cumin, oregano, and black pepper into a powder blend that could be stored and used on demand. In 1896, he began selling it commercially under the Eagle brand. In 1908, he moved his operation to San Antonio and began canning chili con carne, producing the first commercially canned chili in America. Gebhardt. Chili powder is still on grocery store shelves today. Over 125 years after a German immigrant ground chilies in New Braunfels and decided there had to be a faster way to make San Antonio's most famous dish. In 1932, a man named Elmer Doolin walked into a San Antonio cafe and bought a bag of fried corn chips for a nickel. He ate them. He found the man who made them, a Mexican immigrant selling small bags from a corn dough press, and bought the recipe, the press, and the business for $100. Doolin took the recipe home to his mother's kitchen and started manufacturing Fritos in San Antonio. His initial delivery route was the back of his Model T Ford. He sold directly to stores across the city. Within a year, he had moved production to Dallas and was expanding nationally. Fritos, the original, salted, extruded corn chip, are the direct ancestor of every corn chip sold in America today. Doritos, Tostitos, every chip in the chip aisle traces back to the corn dough press that Elmer Doolin bought for $100 in a San Antonio cafe in 1932. The Frito-Lay Company, now a subsidiary of PepsiCo generating over $18 billion in annual revenue, started with a bag of chips that cost a nickel. David Pace was a San Antonio liquor store owner who in 1947 decided to start making and selling a fresh, chunky salsa. Not the smooth, cooked salsa sold in cans at the time, but a fresh chopped product with visible tomatoes and jalapenos that tasted like something made that morning. He called it Pace Picante Sauce. He sold it from his liquor store. It sold. He expanded. Pace Picante Sauce defined what Americans meant by salsa for 2 generations. It was the first nationally distributed fresh-style salsa, thick, chunky, made in San Antonio, with the tagline, "Made in New York City," used in a famous series of commercials that made the phrase synonymous with inferior salsa. In 1994, Campbell's Soup bought Pace for $1.12 billion. The sauce is still made in San Antonio. The jar still says San Antonio, Texas. This is the San Antonio breakfast taco filling that people who move away miss most. Carne guisada is braised beef, chuck or round, cut into small pieces. Slow cooked with tomato, onion, garlic, cumin, and green pepper until the liquid reduces into a thick, rich gravy that coats every piece of meat. It is not a stew. It is not a chili. It is its own category, braised beef and gravy, served inside a flour tortilla as a taco, or over rice as a plate. It is sold at every Tex-Mex restaurant in San Antonio. It appears at church fundraisers, family reunions, school cafeterias, hospital cafeterias. It is the weekday lunch, the Saturday morning taco filling, the food that grandmothers make in large pots and freeze in portions for their grandchildren who live in cities where nobody makes it correctly. San Antonio has a claim to the margarita, and the claim is contested, and San Antonio makes it anyway. The most widely accepted origin places the margarita in Tijuana or Juarez in the late 1930s or early 1940s. But a competing claim, documented in the San Antonio Light newspaper in 1936, credits a San Antonio socialite named Margarita Sames, who reportedly mixed tequila, Cointreau, and lime at a party in Acapulco in 1948. Her recipe spread through San Antonio's social circles and was adopted by the Hilton hotel chain after a Hilton executive attended one of her parties. The origin is murky. What is not murky? San Antonio has more margarita bars per capita than any city in Texas. The frozen margarita machine was invented in Dallas in 1971, and the margarita is now the most ordered cocktail in America. San Antonio doesn't make Tex-Mex. San Antonio is where Tex-Mex came from. The chili queens fed the city from open fires in the plaza before San Antonio had restaurants. Elmer Doolin bought a corn chip recipe for $100 and built a snack food empire. A German immigrant ground dried chilies into a powder and made it possible for every American kitchen to make chili without understanding Spanish. A liquor store owner decided chunky salsa deserved to exist and built a billion-dollar company. This is how San Antonio's food works. Not invented in a test kitchen. Not developed by a culinary institute. Invented in a plaza, in a drive-in on the west side, in a mother's kitchen, in a cafe where a man bought a bag of chips and saw something in it. Not every city has a mascot that is a giant walking taco. Not every city's most famous food stands were run by women who set up cooking fires at dusk and were gone by dawn. Not every city's chip brand generates $18 billion a year from a $100 recipe. San Antonio does things its own way, has since 1718.